Hey, it's Tuesday, May 18th, and yesterday was Monday, the 17th. You know, on the off chance you're confused, I do record class for those kids who might miss a class. On the off chance they can then go watch the class that they missed to try and help children out. It's almost like a thing we do to try and help them, he says, throwing shade. If you don't know your B points, then you can always ask me here in a moment, and I can charge you a point to find out. Being is the fact that some of you are going to get a chance to buy things with your B points. And for those of you who want, Thursday for you guys is the last day to officially do it. After that, next week you can, but it's before or after class. Because once class begins, I need the whole time to tell my stories next week. Because that last day, I use the entire time. The one coming up this week on Thursday depends. We'll try to be as fast as possible. As long as you guys don't take too long, we should be good to go. Even with my double long period, I have double long stories, so it sort of works out. And apparently there's some crazy man running around the school who has a bird or something like that. Well, home children, yes, a bird or a bird, one or the other. I'm wearing one of my Princess Bride shirts today, which is based on some movie. There's a chance you may have heard of called The Inconceivables. But anyway, we'll refer more to that later. Eli, I would tell you how many points you have, but you could just go on Skyward and check. But a good try. I appreciate you trying to flex on people. Go this kid, student of the week, who did well in the last several things, even with his large fluffy hair. Go with him. And still bragging about those kids because they're amazing. Then here's where home children, there's going to be a small blip because I'm going to go through and pause in a second so I can sell things for people. I believe we had all of these things with you guys last week. You guys were here for the Pringles and Oreos and the gummy worms and stuff like that. Those are not new for you guys. And then the expired fruit snacks, which I've had a ton of kids buy and none have died yet. I will tell you, if you do buy the fruit snacks and die, you do get a refund. But you have to commit to your death. If you come back to life, you don't get the points. So, but that hopefully will make things a little easier on you. No, that's not how it works. All right, so I'm now pausing. There's going to be a blip, and then we'll come back. You can't spell high quality without a highlighter. Minor. That pretty much just covered it. Or, you know, a new car. For the last time, this is going to be us going over a quiz together because we're not going to be going over your Princess Bride test. 1, it's not due till Sunday. 2, we're not going to have time next week. 3, it's a big test that'd be really boring. But I figure we can zip through this one and then we'll take a look and figure out what your guys' overall average grade thing was and go from there. Nice. Hi, Joey. Joey, where the flash on kids? All right, then back to you. That's not. Oh, because you're worried about that. Oh, well, I don't know. So I'm here going back to grammar. Which word is incorrectly labeled? Not. So it is not a verb. You know what not is?
A verb.
It's modifying a verb. So what modifies a verb? There you go. It's an adverb. So proud of you guys.
I don't know one now.
The only one of the 3 kidnappers to die. I also took Sicilian. I also took brain. And I also realized a lot of kids were way too lazy to look up how to spell things. And so if you were one of those kids, yeah. Hunchback probably could have worked. I did not anticipate that answer. And let's see, why is Golden's version of the reunion scene not included? Which we're going to talk more about the lawsuits today. That's part of what we get to talk about. And let's see, how does Wesley reveal to Buttercup that he is the man in black? Yelling, as you wish. No, I do too. Women's rights. How does Man in Black get past Fezzik?
Oh yeah, he choked him.
There we go. No strangle, because apparently punching him's not going to work. He's like a mountain. How is he not killed by iocane? Inigo's father better at doing? He was the expert sword makery person. And let's see, Inigo trying to locate the 6-fingered man. Why? There we go. Responsible for Inigo's death. And let's see, what does he promise Buttercup? Does he? No, and that's when we find out about the whole letter that gets sent. They're supposed to go in 4 different directions and find out it's all lies, and he kills Wesley. He's only mostly dead. Let's see, which of the following is not one of the dangers? I did have fun trying to find a fake answer that might sound kind of real for someone who had not read that part, so I was hoping to find it. What is the national sport of Turkey? Fighting. Go you. And then let's see, when Wesley can find something out. What odd thing do we notice? Is correct. It has the unexpected number of fingers. Total of 11. So on here, let's go with one. We had one that was our lowest one overall. I think it was in the 70s. So which one do you think was our lowest one in the 70s?
Why would you guys do that?
Yeah, you are correct. It's the grammar. So here's my next question then. What was our lowest one that actually dealt with Princess Bride? So taking out the grammar question, which was our struggle.
Number 10.
And the one that was the lowest one. Then I think we had 3 that you guys almost got. We had no 100%.
That's so disrespectful.
I know. I appreciate you guys thinking out for me. But you did have 4 that one kid missed. You had 4 questions and 1 kid. Those 4. I'm not afraid of shame.
Oh my God. We need
Yes.
to take them out of the class.
Monday morning. So it includes everybody who turned it in through Sunday night.
Who did that?
The rest of them, you guys did pretty well on.
So what does that go up to?
So that's what we're going to take a look at. So I'll show you. All right. So what was the percentage that you guys had to go for? Anything lower than a 90. Seems that up there.
All of them, because you don't.
Guys, I'm sorry I ruined it.
All right. So hang on. This is brought up. I told you, hang on. This is 4th period, and you guys. So I have not put it down to just 3rd period. So that filters out all the 4th period kids, and it comes down just to this one. All right.
3, 2, 1.
Look at that. On all the questions, there's no question that every kid got right. Well, I mean, if it was a limbo contest, you technically came in right at the bar. I'm so happy. Video's been going the whole time. Are we a little bossy today there, Jimmy? Well, I need something to chase the nasty flavor out of my mouth. That's a good point. You're not bothering me in the slightest.
I gotta get all the. I'm getting the angles on my here. Oh, you guys are being
I don't have much time left.
Then stop recording.
He's just gonna take all this.
So not happy about this. I think we have different ideas of how good.
Do you need a knife?
No, no excuse.
I'll open it for you.
Just break it around.
Catch you later.
Yeah. Who possibly hates me so much? I am not disagreeing with you.
If you cross you. No.
I'm aware of how eating things works. It's not my first time. No, I stick to my bets.
You gotta hype yourself up. You gotta
I think that's three.
I mean, I really think if you like pickles, it'd be good. Right? Oh God. I've got peppers in there. I can take the peppers. You want a pickle? Come here. Hang on. Now realize if you don't have water, don't come yelling at me.
I have
I think if you like pickles, they're probably tasty. I'm not. A big fan of pickles.
Oh, spell. Gracias.
Yeah. Slimy slug for you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Me either. Now I don't like pickles or children. Oh, my hands. No one else wants some green death? Again. No, I plan on eating them all, but no. That is. Trust me. I'm now going to have to send that to my mom. Mom, when you're watching this later. Because my mom knows I hate pickles. All right. I did a thing. Again, I think if you like pickles, they'd be okay. But coming from a not liking pickles standpoint. It's a piece of cereal. There's not a lot of people who eat cereal.
I have similar.
All right. When we get to the break, yeah. What's up, Jay? No. We were so close to you guys not getting that 90%. I was so excited. I was watching it as the grades were coming in, and you guys kept going back with like 88, 92. It's like an 88, 91. We kept jumping back and forth. It's like, there's a chance I might come out of it. I never checked the final number. I checked back on Friday when only like half the grades were in, but I was waiting until the last minute to check that part. So yeah, I did check on Friday because I was really hoping you guys would all be bombing it, but you weren't. So it was a mix of pride and desperation at the same time. Hi, Andrew. Could be. How nice. Hey. Well, that was a joy. I'm so glad you all recorded my pain on my birthday. I believe that's a form of love. I'm not sure what form. Oh, yeah, not right now. Yes. By the way, I did find out this morning that the happy birthday song, it used to be a different version that they would sing in the morning at the beginning of class to start school. And it started off, yeah, I just ate it. It's on video because I lost a bet because I didn't think they'd do it.
You don't think we're smart?
No, I hope you are smart. There's a difference. But anyway, it used to start off as a happy birthday to you. It was good morning to all. And it was a song they would have to sing every day to start school. Yeah, good morning to all. Good morning to all. And then they changed it. Joey. No. So now moving on to Princess Bride. So we get a thing to talk about to try and help out. You're alive. You just missed the excitement. It's okay. You can just put the thing on my desk right there and you're good to go. Yeah, there you go. I tasted it with my own throat. Let's see. Here's the part that we're going to get to do a talking thing. So let's see. One, if you guys have questions about things, I'm going to try and help you out. Old mappy thing to help you out there. iocane powder for the dead person. We'll talk about that actually in a second. But as far as I know it is, as far as being up there, we will get back to it. Good luck, Jack. Don't die. Don't eat pickles. Reunion scene. We're going to come back and talk about that. From there, we talked about the albino. Now you saw the fact that albino was there and got hit in the head. Let's see. Actually, no, we'll come back to that one. Let's see things. Buttercup's baby is at the very end. If you flip pages to it, it's like around, I think, 500, 600, whatever page that is. It is the official sequel to Princess Bride. If you liked Princess Bride, it's good. Be careful if you read the very first chapter. The title of the first chapter kind of gives things away because one of the main characters dies in the very opening chapter. And it has like a big scary guy who has his face ripped off. It's like the bad guy. It's a way scarier version. I don't like it nearly as much as I like Princess Bride. Princess Bride is a happier, more uplifting book, and Buttercup's Baby is more of a depressing one. It is optional. You do not have to read it. I'm not putting it on the test. In past years I have, but this year is just a wonky year altogether. Things got all compressed and weird, and so there's no point in being that mean to you. Fire Swamp, you have what, the vines, and then the fire, and then the snow sand. I don't know, see which kids were paying attention. Thank you, Jay. Apparently there were no vines. See the Six-Fingered Man. We now know who the Six-Fingered Man is. Count Rugen. Ooh, the machine. Who made the machine? How does the machine work? There you go. Little suction cup things that sucks the life out of you. Who do they use the machine on? And a wild dog, for those of you who care about wild dogs. And Leslie. I know. Who cares about wild dogs? And then you have, Leslie gets the machine used on him. And they're supposed to use just little dials, and they go like full out on it. Jay? Yes, into the, I don't know, I don't use the machine. You write them a letter. And then we got to the Brute Squad, which is where we find out that apparently not Vizzini, he's dead. Inigo and Fezzik are not gone, that they come back. Fezzik, big strong guy, was on the Brute Squad. Oh, what is it the prince is having the Brute Squad do? Clear out the thieves' quarter, because what is it he has rumors is going to happen. And he is right. Someone is trying to kill the princess. Who's trying to kill the princess? Yeah, the prince himself. So and what he keeps saying is like, I've heard rumors. Someone's trying to kill the prince. And it's like, turns out the rumors are correct. He's like, I heard rumors. Someone was still on their iPad and you were going to take their points. I'm like, the rumors are correct. And you have all of these rumors that are out there. And we find out that's when he sends in the brute squad to clear out all those people. And that's when we find out that Inigo is there. And he's doing all stabby things. Happy. Throw it away. Having like attack you or something.
Well, sometimes.
It's understandable. Aw, thank you. And then we get to the letter, but she sends out what he's supposed to send like in the 4 different directions to track him down. They fail on the tracking him down thing because apparently he was not in the boat in the first place. Mina. Just don't drink it. So we have the plan to kill Buttercup that the prince knows. We already covered that one. We have Miracle Max and Valerie, which are the 2 from there, which was Wesley being mostly dead, but not all the way dead. And we bring him back, and then, ooh, what is it that brings him back to life? Well, is it more like the thing that he feels, I guess, or the thing? Why is he able to be brought back to life? Because of true love. Nicely done. You are actually correct. I know. All right, then we get to mapping thing again. Because there's a capital Q, so you have to have a capital S. Does it bother you?
Yes, just like that.
Now you know the answer. I'm sorry, you think I feel bad? I just had to eat a pickle. So all the we get to Inigo's final confrontation with the Count, because we find out the Count has 6 fingers. So what does that mean the Count did in the past? So what does Inigo do in the present? And that's where he does the whole stabby, kill thing. And then we got to the ending, which goes back to Lady and the Tiger, which was that story you guys had to read, the 2 doors, and you open up one, and the lady comes out, and the tiger. It's so old, there's multiple different versions of it, so it doesn't really matter too much on that one. And then the end of this story sort of ends the same way, where they're escaping and running away, but then all of a sudden the horse's like hooves fall off. No, horseshoes. Hooves can't fall off. Horseshoes fall off, and like the wound reopens, they're bleeding. You're like, oh my God, they're gonna die. Are they gonna get away? And you don't know if they're gonna get away or die. Then all of a sudden the story ends, and you're like, Mr. Broviak, you can't just end like that. And you're right, we can't, because you also have Buttercup's baby. And then Buttercup's baby goes on to tell you more information about that. And then it is just the first chapter of the sequel. Jay. Oh yeah, it was a kid named Graham, last name Graham. I don't know who that kid would be. I would not make fun of him myself. But yeah, that's the kind of person I am, to randomly mock a child. I was never. All right. Questions over book, because the next part we're going to get to are not going to be actual plot things. But if you have actual plot things that confused and or bothered you, now is time to ask before I move on to other things. But I'm going off with you guys staring at me. Okay. Jay.
Okay, so like, let's say was on the Red Parrot Roberts ship.
Yes.
When did he get so good?
I'm guessing while he was on the ship, he just kept practicing, because while the ship is sailing, you have a lot of free time.
So like, to learn the like specific.
I'm guessing from the previous Dread Pirate Roberts, or maybe he's just really good at stabbing things. Amanda.
So was this whole crew just still on the ship while he was like saving Buttercup and stuff?
Yes.
Why didn't he use them?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yes.
He died in the bedroom.
Yes, he dies a lot, but apparently they're not full deaths. I mean, he died with the Dread Pirate Roberts, and we don't really care about him, except apparently Buttercup does, because she ran into a tree. And then the second death was much more like an actual death, but mostly being dead thing, and they brought him back to life. So apparently he's just not good at dying. He's good at swords, but apparently not good at death. That was easy. No other issues as far as that goes. Then, yeah. All right. So here's the part where you cannot speak anything to Globetrotters. If I find out this information has been given to Globetrotters and it gets tracked back to one of you, then whatever day it is I find out, then you have to sit in hallway when I do that day's story. So that becomes the whole, because it makes Mr. Sturgeon really angry and he's my friend. And if he makes me angry, then blah, blah, blah. So this now, or if any of you are not good at holding on to secret information, here's the part where you're going to want to go, I should probably go in the hallway, because information is not necessarily the thing that's going to be on, none of this is going to be on the test. It's just information to make you a better person. So if you know, like my youngest is horrible at holding on to secrets, it is the thing that sort of drives him insane. So because of that, I'm just giving you the opportunity now. Okay, features just sort of things that go along with the book, and it kind of just makes it more fun. One, I apologize for this year. This year's been chaos and crazy, and I really wanted to spend more time getting into the book and talking about the book, and it just did not get a chance to happen this year. The whole block period class things are just weird, and it's been a weird adjustment, and I've done my best with it, but the drawback is, in all honesty, you guys missed out on fun things this year, and it's just because time-wise, it was the way it worked out. One of them being Princess Bride and getting a chance to go a lot more into it than we did this year. It felt very rushed, which made me sad because I did not want to push you through this book at the speed we had to, because it's a fun book to read. I mean, as far as having to read book and you being told I have to push big book on you, it's not bad. And there's fun things that happen in it, but we did what we could. So first off, this whole book from beginning to end, the very first thing we did from opening chapter all the way to the end is completely fiction. There is nothing real or true in this entire book, aside from the fact that William Goldman is an actual person that exists. Which means, for those of you wondering about Florin and Gilder, there is no Florin and Gilder. Both those countries are completely made up. They've never existed at any time. There was no Florin. He is not Florinese. He is not of a Florinese background. His father was not from Florin. None of that part is real also. That's all completely made up. S. Morgenstern is also not a real person. There is no S. Morgenstern. That part is also completely made up. He never existed. He never wrote a full long book. He is a completely made up person that Goldman created just for this version of the book. So if S. Morgenstern did not exist, then there is no full version of the whole book anywhere. You are reading the whole version of the book from beginning to end. This whole thing was just an idea he came up with about the idea of shortening a long book down to a shorter book and then just adding stuff in. So that whole like introduction thing that we did, that's part of his story. That's why we have to read the introduction, is because that's where the story begins, with the whole idea of his parents being from Florin and having this whole background thing going into it. So that whole introduction was fake leading into it to try and build up. So when he cut out like all of chapter 4, there never was a chapter 4. He just made that stuff up. So all of those things where he cuts in, those are things he made up. Now, he committed to this. Goldman went out and wrote a book and published it under the name Simon Morgenstern and put it out there. You can buy it on Amazon. And it's a real book, and it's a good book called The Silent Gondoliers, because he wanted to so badly sell this idea. When he first came out with the book in 1971, he thought it was just a fun idea. But in 1971, there was nothing called the internet. People all over America fully believed Florin and Gilder were real places, completely bought into it, because there was no device you could type things into. If you wanted to look up, are there old countries, you had to get in your car and drive down to the library and then go talk to a librarian and go look up things while she made fun of you. So most people just went, wow, those are real places. So forever, people just assumed this was all completely real. So when people started buying into it, he was like, oh, well, let's just have more fun with it. So he went ahead and created more backstory and wrote a whole nother book, which I pull out whenever kids start to get the idea that maybe the book is fake because they're smart and they start looking stuff up. and they come to me and they go, Mr. Wozniak, I don't think this book is real. I think Morgenstern's fake. Then I bring this book out and I slam it down and I go, well, here's a book written by S. Morgenstern. And it says by the author of Princess Bride. And they go, my brain. And it's fun to watch it like blow up right there. Questions so far? Joey?
Okay. So, the backstory of his dad never let him read it.
Correct, because there was no book to read him. And his dad also was not a barber. I know. It's okay.
That is real? Did he have it?
Shaver. Oh, we're going to talk about that in a moment too. The whole trust issue, we're not done. Yeah, there's more. That was just page 1. So there's more stuff coming. That's why I was pausing for a moment for questions, because we have to baby step into this, because if not, you guys have to go through trauma. The egg? Humpty Dumpty? No, that's okay. Jay? We're going to get to that. That's coming up in a moment too. All of these things come together. All right. Ready to continue? Here we go. So as I mentioned a moment, the intro, everything in there is made up. So as you process that part, when I say everything is made up, so the reason why he was able to make fun of his son and because he did not have a son. Goldman has 2 daughters. So the reason why he wrote Princess Bride originally is because he was telling bedtime stories to his 2 daughters. He's like, what do you want the stories to be about? And one said princesses and one said brides. And he was like, fine. So he combined them and started telling the story about Buttercup, this girl who falls in love with a farm boy. And they loved it so much, he decided to sort of like jot it down. And then he was like, well, that's not enough to write a story about. He was like, oh, well, if I did a long, so it sort of went from there. So yeah, he never had a son. He had 2 daughters, which also leads you to, oh, boo-boo, we're not done yet. So he is married, but him and his wife got along just fine. She was not a child psychologist. Her name's not even Helen. So, there are child psychopaths. They're all over this room. They bring in jars of pickles. And so we'll get to that part. So he created all of that as part of the story. So speaking of Amanda. Uh-huh. We're gonna get to that. That's what we're getting there. It's coming in just a moment. So when I've told you in the past that I skipped the introduction with previous classes, that's called a lie. I've never skipped the introduction, because you can't skip the introduction because that's the beginning of the story. But it helps sell it if I tell you that I've skipped the introduction in the past and jumped straight into it. And then you're like, oh, well, he's done it in the past. And so it helps sort of bring you in on that one. But no, we've never skipped the introduction because it takes all this stuff out of it. The not real number page. The XBIs and stuff like that. Correct. Because this book got so popular, he wrote new introductions to it. And now that you know it, if you go back and read those introductions, he commits. Like as you read the new introductions, he still goes through and says Florin is real. There's a part in there where he talks about getting into a fight with Stephen King because Stephen King's family is from Florin, and Stephen King declares himself the most famous writer from Florin. And like he has this whole thing, and Stephen King is quoted in there. And Stephen King today will still talk about the fact that his family comes from Florin, and like he doubles down on it. It's like they have gone deep into this. Oh, hang on real quick before I forget. So the very beginning of it, if you open up stuff in there, so it has the little blurbs at the very beginning of it, like from Newsweek and famous things. If you keep turning and reading and keep going, eventually you're going to get to other ones like Henry Pavel, author of Middle Morgenstern. Yeah, that does not exist. That's a thing that he just made up. Shog Bongiorno, professor emeritus from mid-European literature. So he just started making up and writing his own things at the very beginning because it sort of helped sell that same idea too. So that's sort of how deep he went with this. Nina, Yes, he died 2 years ago. You are correct. So you don't have to keep celebrating.
Maybe it's definitely.
All right. So now we feel good so far, right? Okay. So we're gonna go to the next page. All right. So reunion scene. Why is there no reunion scene? There is no reunion scene at all. It was never written. When he first created the book, he just sort of did it as like a rant. He wasn't that popular of an author when he wrote this. It was like he was just in the coming up, starting to get popular, but it was not like a huge thing. And he wrote the reunion scene thinking literally like 100 people would write in for it, and that would be it, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. It was sort of like a ha ha. It was kind of a fun trick. And then the book kind of exploded, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and became this cult classic that people sort of read and then passed around to other people. And then people started wondering about this whole Florin and Gilbert thing, so it just kept getting bigger and bigger. So he decided when he did that reunion scene to sort of throw people clues to help them out. I gave you guys the same clue. Do you remember the lawyer who comes for the lawsuit?
Yeah.
You remember that lawyer's name?
No.
Kermit Shog.
Yeah.
What does Kermit Shog sound like?
Kermit the Frog.
That was on purpose because the Muppets had just come out. And so he was like, hey, here's going to be my way of telling people, obviously this is fake. The lawyer's name is Kermit Hog. And people are going to be like, oh, well, obviously. No. People went, what? Kermit the Frog? That's a Florinese name. And he was like, what? And people just assumed Kermit the Frog was connected to Kermit Shog, which was a Florinese thing. So instead of being a reveal, people just doubled down on it. And he was like, oh, we're going to do that, are we? Now, the lawsuits, by the way. So here's one of my favorite parts of how I get a chance to teach. So remember we kept, I don't know, we're going to talk about the map here in a moment. Do Florin and Gilbert exist anymore? No. Did I mention multiple times those countries are gone? Yes. Why do we not have the reunion scene? What does he mention? Lawsuits. Lawsuits from that country. Exactly. How many times I start off going, these countries don't exist. That day we talked about the reunion scene. I said, these countries don't exist. And then 10 minutes later, we get into the reunion scene where the countries are having a lawsuit. And you guys just went, okay, and just nodded your head and went right along with it the entire time. So, yeah, that's why he goes through, and he even gets down to like, makes up like his own like cadmium. And like he was like, NASA wants cadmium, and cadmium comes. It doesn't. He's just making up random things, and people just went ahead and accepted it, and you guys just blindly nodded. So then we get to the idea about the sequel and the fact that the sequel came out. The sequel also does not exist. Now, there is a chapter, if you get to Buttercup's Baby, he wrote a short story called Buttercup's Baby, which is like the first chapter of a make-believe book. And it's really frustrating because it ends on a cliffhanger with like the characters all getting ready to die. And like there's a thing getting ready to hit him. It goes chapter 2, and then chapter 2 stopped. And he's like, I haven't had a chance to translate that chapter yet because it does not exist. And so he created this whole thing because people kept asking. They loved Princess Bride so much. He just continued to taunt them and came up with this other thing, which was the sequel, which, by the way, the sequel is not out there either. Yes.
So coincidentally, just a few minutes ago, I happened to look up Buttercup's Baby, see if it was really a book. It said that it wasn't real.
No.
And this was before you started talking about how
Yeah.
it was fake. It was like 5 minutes earlier.
It's amazing what Googling will do, which we're going to talk about in a moment. So that map I kept showing you, this map. Oh God, yes. I literally just Googled map of Europe, found one that had pretty colors on it, and then just put a circle on it, and then just randomly labeled Florin and Gilbert, and then just pointed to it. But I made sure to put it up there every single day that we went through and did the reading of it, is assuming that at some point you guys in social studies might bring up this question to Mrs. Randall, which you're going, I know. Don't get me wrong. I bank on you guys being idiots. That's how I get away with most of what I do. It's that, and I've learned that making, hey, You guys are easily distracted. Anytime that you guys get close to finding something out, I can just, hey, you guys are like, what's going on? I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, okay. And I just can go in a completely different direction. And you're like, was he talking about, oh, he's talking. And it's like, oh my God, it was that easy to do every time. It's frightening. So yes, I would put up a random picture of a map that I just drew on, and you guys just blindly accepted it. So, of that map I showed you, then the question becomes, Mr. Broviak, why would you do this horrible thing to us and break all levels of trust that we may have for you? There is a reason why I do this. One, yeah, especially after the pickle incident, but no, I feed you before that. So, yes, it's still there, and I can taste it when I swallow on occasion. But I'm trying not to think about it too much. I do. I have to run over there to help rinse it out. So with all of this, one, I am done. No, I'm not making you guys. I'm telling you guys, I am done lying and misleading you guys from here on. We are past all of it. So that is my way of telling you, because there is a reason for what I do. It is this. I've worried in the past about the fact that people too easily believe stuff, which became even scarier over the last several years. And the fact that we had government officials who would mislead people and put out false information. And the fact is, I don't want you guys to grow up to be those old people on Facebook randomly reading fake articles and going, this must be true. I want you guys to be the ones to challenge things. Me telling you a thing is not enough to make it happen. This is a thing that stays with you. I lied to you, but I had your best interests in heart. There are going to be other adults and other teachers who lie to you and don't have your best interest at heart. What I want you to do moving forward is challenge adults all the time, because adults are not blindly right. Adults are not people that should always be trusted. And yeah, this is probably not a thing that all adults agree with me telling you, but as you move forward in life, I want you to challenge. Do I want you to challenge me? Yeah. I wanted kids to challenge me during this, and I had a handful who did, who would low-key come up to me after class and try to be like, yeah, and then I would show them the book. There's also, if I have some, I didn't have any this year because we have enough time with the book, but I had some kids who started to figure out the whole Goldman Road everything. I have an article that was published online. I point to kids that has research done that shows William Goldman is fake and is a made-up person that was created by a college class to trick people, and it has all this evidence pointing out the fact that Goldman doesn't exist. And once I have kids read that, their brains melt. And again, it was just a fake thing that was put out there by people because you guys blindly trust. Do not blindly trust people. Even me, who looks adorable, verify, make sure that you double check things. It's going to make life better. When you guys become people that go out into the world, I need you to be people that challenge things. Andrew. Absolutely. Now, I'm not saying on any level it's easy. People who spread lies and don't want you to challenge them are not going to just sit there and go, good boy, you challenge. No, they fight you. But realize at one point, there are a lot of bad things that were accepted as correct. For the longest time, women could not vote, and that was accepted as just the way things were. Racism was accepted as the way things were until people eventually went, I'm going to challenge this. Did people fight them when they challenged it? Yeah, but you're supposed to fight and challenge these things. So when people put stuff out there, I'm not saying it's an easy battle, but I'm saying it's a battle you have to do if you want to improve the world. This was my creative way of doing it. Jay. I think you're different on what they do, challenge and attacking. That's mugging. Right. So I have one more thing to show you. So we read a book called Gospel According to Landon. So This was my first introduction to things we should challenge.
You baddie.
So all of that book is completely made up also. The only thing true in there is the fact that Janet Tasjian is an author, and she did write a book, and she probably goes grocery shopping. Oh, and Walden Pond is an actual place you can go to. All other parts of that are completely made up. Now, on this one, no, that's the Walden Pond in Thoreau. He does exist. Those are the things that you can verify and check. But as far as like Larry Fest, made up. Josh himself, made up. All the things that went into it, made up. But that was one. It makes it a more fun story to read if you think it's a real life thing. And that's where it is. Anytime you read a real life thing, it makes it more fun than a make believe thing. And two, it was fun watching you guys challenge your parents on things, because you would go home and be like, "Do you remember Larry Fest?" Like, no. You're like, "It was huge." You're like, "No, it wasn't." And so that was the first step of challenging a thing. And I had a handful of kids who would try to Google Larry Fest, and they'd be like, "I can't find it." And I'm like, well, I was very creative in how I would redirect you and try to distract you in any number of different ways. And loud clapping and then changing the topic works way more than it should. Which, by the way, if this is a thing you learn, when you get into a fight with other teenagers, just clap loudly. And they'll be like, "Oh my God, can you believe that happened?" Like, "What are you?" Like, they're like, and all of a sudden it works at least twice. The third time they catch on. The first two times, though, it'll get you out of a fight. Puppy.
Can you tell us it was real at the beginning of the?
I don't remember the story.
I don't remember. Yeah, no, I was virtual when I was I didn't pay attention, you know.
He did, because you said that he was still missing and that's found.
Yeah, we talked about multiple times while I was on. Good job, lady. Jagger.
Okay, so I knew that was a mistake as well, the gospel for Larry, because when I went home, like the first day we started reading it and was telling my mom about it, and like, I said it was like a true story, because that's what she told us.
I know.
So she looked it up and it said it was fake. So I mean,
It's amazing what looking things up does.
yeah.
But a lot of times I bank on you guys being lazy, and it pays off 95% of the time. Yeah, being lazy is 95. Clapping is the other 4%. And the last 1% is the kids who pursue through. Okay. I have no idea. If only there was a machine we could look these things up on. That is true. Joey.
Every time I read, I have to tell my dad what it's about.
Uh-huh.
And so technically, I just straight up lied to my father.
No. Lying is when you know it's wrong. What you did was simply be incorrect. So yeah, what I did was lie. What you did was spread misinformation. There's a complete difference. Could be, but you thought it was real. You found a real Larry Fest. Good job, Eli. Evan.
Yeah.
I appreciate you letting me know ahead of time.
Wait, why would you let me know?
So when we move into my stories, which for you guys will begin on Thursday, those are where we get to actually move into me telling you the background. So actually, real quick, Harvey, before I tell me anything. Uh-huh. Technically, partly, did we not talk about that? Because you guys were virtual during that time, weren't you? So with the Outsiders thing, it's partly real. Susan Hinton wrote it when she was 16 years old, and she was in high school and got in a fight with her English teacher when she kept claiming that he made her read crap. And he was like, "Well, fine. If you think you can write a better story, you write a book." So she did, and she wrote it about her friends. So it wasn't a thing that had happened yet. So what happened was she is in the book, she wrote herself into it. She is Cherry. And so in her high school, she was a cheerleader, and she was friends with the scary kids, the greasers, and then these rich kids. And she saw her friends fighting, and they kept escalating it, getting worse and worse. And she kept telling him, "If you keep at this, one of you is going to die." And so she wrote a story where the thing she told them was going to happen actually happened. And that actually helped sort of stop this thing happening at her school. So not all of it is real, but it's based on real. And so she worked in all of her friends into the story and stuff like that. So No, I told you, as of moving forward, this is why my 8th graders come back and talk to me. When we got to this, now also, by the way, my 8th graders last year, they didn't get to read this. You guys did. You guys got a whole experience. Last year's kids did not, because they were virtual and we just didn't get a chance to. So you guys did, they did not. But yeah, so I told you, no, that thing is done. If we move into my stories moving forward. So with the stories coming up, there are 4 things that we're going to do. 3 stories, and then I have a final like talkie speech I do with you. The talkie speech is the most important one. When you've heard past kids come through my room, whether it be siblings or whether it be friends who've been in my room and talk about my end of the year stuff, it's the last one is the one that they're referring to. To give that proper meaning, though, for you to understand why I tell that one, I have to bare my soul. And so my goal is that I am going to present to you the 3 most horrifying things that happened to me when I was a kid. And so those are the 3 times I got arrested. And so those are the things that I did a thing where I did not think I could come back from this horrible thing that I did. And so I'm going to tell you all 3 of those stories so that you understand where I'm coming from, so that I can tell you my final story. And so the final one is the one that carries the weight. And I'll explain to you why I tell that story as we get closer to it. Eric. I mean, they happened to me, and there's definitely some tears involved. So yes, I mean, trust me, at the time, I was really hoping they were not real. But yeah. Jay. That was like 5. It was before my first arrest. It was in the same town. I lived in Zionsville. No, I definitely did not. So, yeah. I mean, a handful on accident because they'd be in like my McDonald's burger that I'd spit it out and burn it. But not like I never like pulled out a pickle and ate it on purpose. That was the first time in almost 40 years. Yes. Almost. You wonder if you can pack up and just sit there and stare at the ceiling?
No, we want
The TikTok, I got you. Cameron. That is an interesting idea. This so there and from that one. As far as for this, did I tell you guys the ages? Okay. So my first story, which we'll get to on Thursday, it was when I was 8. That one's a funny story. I was an advanced child. That first one. So first one, funny story. Second one, when I was 14, not a funny story. That's gonna be the one that's gonna be much more emotional and that your drama and your feels. And then third one was when I was 18, and that goes back and forth between the drama and the feels. And then the last one, the speechy thing, is gonna be pretty much all feels. If you ask about the crying, and the answer is, oh, absolutely. From year to year, but it'll depend. For me, the story I tell when I'm 14, yes, I won't cry because I've told it enough times. The first year I told it, I definitely cried. Now you'll see me, I still get emotional because of what I did and my feelings towards it. That speech the last day, it depends. I absolutely cry sometimes. And it sort of depends on you guys because of the information I give you. Some of you guys, it'll hit home hard. And when I see my information hit home for you guys, that's the thing that gets me emotional. Because it's not so much emotions from me as much as I will begin to mirror emotions from you. In some classes, I'll give that speech and nothing because it just doesn't hit, which is fine. Other classes, it's like tears from the beginning. And if you have no tears, it's fine. It's not a bad thing. It's just part of how things go. Much like in a moment when apparently you watch me do some weird TikTok, there might be tears also.
Wait, is there a mirror? No.
Jay, you've already watched it? Oh man, my speech. Oh yeah, hang on, sorry, I forgot. I have one more screen I have to get to. This screen. This is your last test. So officially, for those of you who have best after this class, Eli's back. You get 2 attempts at it like all of my previous ones. So on there, I recommend, you're welcome to give it a try. I will not officially be locking it in until next Sunday. So you have all of this week for your 2 attempts. If you need more than 2 attempts, as always, email me. And then I just charge you 2 points. It really only impacts you if you're planning on getting a perfect score. On your 3rd attempt, you can't get a perfect score. And then on the 4th attempt, it keeps dropping you down by 2 points each time. But that is completely up to you. This is your last big test for me. Friday, you have an e-learning, but it's a 5-point e-learning, and you have like 1,000 points for me. It is literally just a thing to make my life better because I have a question I want to ask you and get your opinion on things. If you choose not to do it, it's probably not going to impact your grade. It does go in as a grade, but it's more for just you helping me do a thing. And so that's for the Friday. So this is your last big thing. Once that's turned in, then you do get a chance to turn in your books for things and stuff like that. All right. 35. It is a 35 question test.
That's a lot of questions.
That's the same number as your gospel test.
Wait,
That helps out. That was also 35. It's actually set up almost identical to the gospel test. 70 points. All right. Weird flex. Home children. All right, now we're done with you. So I'll let you guys go take test. We'll see you later, stuff like that. Yeah, if you want to.